Welcome to Automation Hunter, the podcast for entrepreneurs and businesses ready to scale smarter. In this series, Apps, Hacks, and Bounties, your host, Will Christensen, dives into game-changing tools and strategies alongside special guests, sharing insights to boost productivity and solve real business challenges. Ready to innovate? Let's dive in.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Automation Hunter. I'm your host, Will Christensen, and I have Elizabeth Greene here. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'll be honest, we were talking about this before we started recording. I'm a little jealous of your amazing branding you've got going on there in the background. And it's not virtual, it's real. So you actually had somebody make you that sign?
Yes. So I wanted a backlit sign. I was like, that looks epic. So I got it. And I got one where you can wall mount it so it's backlit. And
nice.
But apparently it was going to be a pain and you were going to have to go through drywall to wire it. It was going to be this whole thing. And my husband was like, can I just stick it? Can I make you a board for it? And I was like, yes. Apparently that was an absolute pain to deal with. I didn't have to deal with it. He figured it out, which is fantastic. Apparently it involved washers and mounting and trying to figure it out. And I'm like, thank you. So I have the idea and he executes.
Hey, it looks good. It looks good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so diving in here, Elizabeth, this is apps, hacks, and bounties. So we're going to open it up first for what apps have you come across in the past 6 months, year, that have really helped you grow or build some different things inside your business?
Yes. I would say as far as growing and systemizing, so we're an agency, more specifically an Amazon ads agency, although I don't think that part matters. It's more the agency thing. And so with any agency, you're dealing with clients. Client communication is about 50% of the deliverables, meaning the experience is what matters. Results should matter more. To be honest, I think it's about 50-50. It might even be 60-40 on good communication is key. It's way too easy to spin off in a direction that you think is good, but you haven't clarified that. But the difficulty is that those communications happen in calls. Those communications happen through emails. Some people use Slack channels. There's 6 million things pinging all over the place at any given time. And quality is super important to me as an agency owner. I'm not scaling as fast as I maybe could if I took everything and did everything. And that's because quality must be there. But if you want quality, you have to have somebody overseeing quality. And how does one see that when it's everywhere, all over the place? So there's a couple ways you can solve for that. One is just to have somebody running around like a mad person checking everything, or you can have and so I can tell you the one that we use, but there's other solutions out there, and that is something very classically known as a ticketing system. So classic in IT, or you submit something to an email on the back end. It's not typically going to an email inbox, it's going into one centralized inbox. And so that, I think that's what you call it, is a ticketing system.
Yeah. Yep. Zendesk or Freshdesk. There's several of them out there.
Yep. And so essentially what this allows you to do is to go into one centralized inbox. I can literally go in there and see every single open communication with clients. We can assign it to the account managers, assign it to the person who needs to. You can build in response times. So you can literally go in there and be like, oh my gosh, this is over response time. This is under response time. You can see threads. A lot of times, even if you had an email or a Slack, if there is a communication that you're oh my gosh, I have to loop in and we have to have a team conversation to be able to answer this particular client request or query or whatever it may be, that communication typically happens in another place, and then you have to remember to connect that to the communication. And to be honest, it's a pain. And so the ticketing system actually has internal chats that are then archived in the thread. So when you want to have a conversation, you can tag the team member who needs to. You can have your internal conversation. This is really good if you want to coach somebody through communications with a client and make sure that everything, again, is above board. Because I'll be honest, just because somebody's really good at deliverables does not mean they're great at answering client requests or it's a very, very specific way in which you can go through that, and I can talk at length about coaching team members through that and the semantics of that. But this allows us to say hey, okay, so there's this open ticket. You go write your response. I'll curate it. It's all in the thread, right? And then when you close that ticket, all of that stuff is then saved. Bonus points if it is connected to our CRM, which ours is. And so what that allows us to do is for every single client account, I can literally go in and within 2 minutes show every single past communication that ever happened happened with a client, all of those requests and things. Hey, was this answered? So we have caught things, it happens, right? Someone didn't fully answer and close out the ticket. Oh my gosh, there's this thing. Like, it's all findable. And the problem is that, like, even if you have people CC'd in, somebody doesn't get CC'd in. We forgot, oh, that person, you sent it to the wrong person. You didn't send, like, it's all in one place and we never miss anything, which is chef's kiss fantastic. And then on top of all of that, that wasn't enough for us. I wanted to be able to have things at my fingertips. So one of the things that we do, in addition to just having all of our communications archived in a CRM, all of our account managers are also taking active notes, and those are attached to our CRM. The problem with any sort of communication, even sending emails, right? We know we've been doing it. We're doing the research and we're like, oh crap, I got to go there, do this, find the thing, get to that, type it up, do whatever I got to need, I got to do. I got to go find their email address. Like, I got to make sure the right people are CC'd in. Oh, this is pain. We have an internal developer. And so what he built is a custom browser extension for us. So anywhere I am in any account, in any workflow, I can literally click that extension, select the account, have access to every single note that was ever taken on that account, have access to every single communication that happened on that account. And it can even enact or create a what we call tickets, but it would be essentially an email. I can select that account, say, all right, I need to send them a ticket, and it will automatically pull in all of those contacts. I can make sure I CC in everybody, or you can just select the one person, open it up, off you go. No more finding emails, no more trying to remember where anything is. It's all archived in one system, and like, oh my gosh, that's been so much better. It used to be absolute chaos before.
So, and this is a custom Chrome extension you had built?
Yeah. So the custom Chrome extension, I'll let you know. So the system, I have like a love-hate relationship with it. I have a more love than hate at this point. But the system is called like Zoho, which is, they have like an all-in-one suite of things, which include all kinds of stuff, but the CRM, and then that automatically connects and feed into desk tickets. That has been like really game changer for us. And then again,
so you're using Zoho for the CRM and the ticketing system, or using Zoho for the CRM and then something else for the ticketing system?
Yeah, so it's pretty much all in one. There's something called Zoho One, which you can pay. It's not essentially cheap per user, but what it is it gives you a suite of tools, and you can allow people to have certain access to stuff. So there are a lot of integrations. For example, like the desk ticketing system, that automated pulling into the CRM and archiving all of this stuff, that's done automatically because it's within the same ecosystem.
Yeah, it's within Zoho's ecosystem. So I think there's one that would be a hack or something I would want to point out to everybody, that choosing a ticketing system, it's a good idea to find one that's integrated with a CRM already. And in this situation, that's been wildly valuable for you because you've been able to see those two things side by side. And that was actually something I was going to ask you is, well, how are all the tickets making it into the CRM? Because it's not normal for the tickets to just be in the CRM. They're generally two separate systems. So it's cool that you've leveraged Zoho's ecosystem to create that. And Zoho's not the only one out there that's got that sort of connection built in. So I love what you said there. And then custom Chrome extensions. I could not have more good things to say about custom Chrome extensions. We had a business that came to us and they said, well, we're currently doing this thing where we're grading jobs. So a job happens at a physical location. They go in and they're doing a cleaning job and they take pictures of everything. And then we have a scheduler who's going in and giving it an A, B, C, or D for one category, and then a 1 out of 10 for another. And the bonuses for all of the employees who worked on that job are all based on this scoring system. I said, well, how are you doing that now? And they said, we're tagging it. So they had like hundreds of tags that they were using to go into the CRM. And I was like, wait a second, why wouldn't we just create a Chrome extension that sat on top of the website, associated it with that specific job, and then it's got all the drop downs that you could need to structure the data in just the right way. And the scheduler doesn't have to remember which tag means what. And we were able to make it interface with the CRM and basically extend the functionality of their CRM just by giving it some custom interface to connect those dots. And it was very easy because it was all built in that Chrome extension. So it wasn't a public Chrome extension that we put on the Chrome store. It was just a developer extension that we put out there and had them install on their machines. And we were able to wildly extend the functionality, and worked great.
Custom Chrome extensions are fantastic. And like we have another one where we have a lot of internal stuff. We hired a developer, gosh, it's been like a year or so. So we just have one developer on team. And like I've said, like I'm not building a software, right? That's a whole nother beast. That's a whole nother ball game. But I know what I want. I want my, like, there are those, like you said, those specific, like it's a very minor tweak that you're like, it solves this one specific thing, and yet it frees up a ton of stuff. So what we had found is like, although the ticketing system was fantastic, although the idea of taking notes within a CRM, again, the problem in any agency is that there's so many things going on, and there's a lot of people who, if you don't do your best to pull that information out of them, like they have area expertise around a specific account, around a specific thing, and how do you get that information in a place that's easily accessible? So the goal is to be able to go into somewhere and say, okay, this is a specific goals for this account. The other thing is, so we use Fireflies. I'm sure other ones do it as well. There's a lot of really great extensions. Fireflies has an integration with Zoho as well, which actually allows you, so any client, and it's connected to, you have the individual contacts, which are then connected to the accounts. So I can show up on any single client call. I'll take my notes as well. I'll make sure the team knows, but like every single call is recorded, archived, and transcribed and attached as a note to those accounts as well. So if you wanted, like if you got access to my system, you could go through any of the accounts and say, okay, this is the goals for the account, and here's an archive of all of the past information, calls, conversations, all of it. And the beauty is nobody had to do anything. It's like there.
Yep. I love it. I use Fathom. Fathom Note Taker is the one that I use, and I love taking information out of the phone calls that I'm having, turning that into tasks. Like if I were to, get into different parts of this call and we were to mention to-dos, Fathom actually pulls the to-dos out for me and then pushes them into ClickUp. I mean, just amazing what's possible now with AI. And I always thought like, oh, I'd just love to have an assistant that sat with me on all my calls and like took down notes. We're there like that. There's an AI assistant that can do that and do some amazing things. Elizabeth, let's move to the last part of our episode. What is the one thing that if you were to change inside Junglr right now that would like open up the doors for growth and, help you grow?
That is a fantastic question. So we'll touch on the automation and like that side of things. I'm a firm believer that your growth is always going to be limited by the leader. And that's myself at this point. So my growth is limited by myself as a leader. And the one thing that I know I need to work on is clear communication. I communicate well, but I could work on clear communication of like what specifically I want to happen. So I'm an ideas person. I think in like 20 different connections, and that's why like I come up with all these ideas and I understand ad strategy so in depth because so many things touch each other and there's so many factors, and so I can view that complexity, and when asked a very specific ad question, I could make 20 different connections and communicate it succinctly. What happens when I'm in the middle of that idea generation process and I have that spark of an idea that I want to bring somebody else into, because my brain is thinking a million miles a minute, the succinct of like what specifically needs to happen, if I haven't come to that full conclusion yet and I'm bringing someone into the ideation process, that I tend to confuse people and overcomplicate things. I know I do. And so beautiful things come out of that. So as a leader, that's one thing I need to do to help my team know how to help me better. But as far as like bottlenecks to growth, I think it's where a lot of people are. It's like, if you had more calls on the calendar, you're going to get more at bats, you're going to get more shots, you're going to have more growth. I'm not dissatisfied with the growth that we have now, but I know like all more growth is always better. So that would be more calls on the calendar. If I had to give you a specific thing that automations could possibly help with, it would probably be, a lot of our calls in the calendar end up through content. We have a lot of inbound, which is fantastic. A lot of that inbound comes from me and my knowledge being shared. Because getting that information out of myself and into a format that is helpful and not confusing, I find quite difficult, because again, I think in complexities and connections, and that's not typically helpful. Like when you're trying to get out something that's valuable, you need the end conclusion and the succinct bullet points. I'm getting better at it. I find AI to be 2 parts helpful and 1 part frustrating in that process. And AI chat is quite good, like voice, because I process things audibly. It is quite good at pulling out interesting points for a conversation. It's been quite helpful. The accurate packaging of that into something that is useful, that is the disconnect that I find insanely frustrating. And I have worked with that so many times. And I know that it can be better and it will be better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the thing that I've found.
Okay. So 2 questions that I have for you. One, when you're delegating a task to a team member, what tool are you using right now to share your ideas? Are you just sending a message on one of your platforms? Are you sending an email, a WhatsApp message, a text message? Like what format are you using?
Yeah, so we have an internal messaging system. So most times it's an internal message.
Okay. And when you're sending that internal message, are you sending screenshots or screen recordings along with it? Or how are you communicating that way?
It depends. A lot of times I like to do screenshots or Loom videos or things, especially if there's like some sort of here's the thing and you want kind of like a show and tell aspect. There, I don't think it's so much. Maybe if you have a snazzy automation for me, let me know. For me, I think that's just me getting better at crafting the message and constantly learning. Like I said, I've gotten better, but I know I can do better.
Cool. So one thing that I would give you is an app. Sorry, it's more of a hack than an app. It's a book. It's called The 6 Working Geniuses by Patrick Lencioni. Have you read this book by chance?
I've not. Sounds like I
So
should.
it is a fantastic book that talks a little bit about what it means to be an idea person in the world of projects that actually need to get done, right? Because that's a challenge that we all have, right? To kind of connect those different dots. And so what I have discovered is that there is a real opportunity to recognize these kind of different working geniuses. And they basically toss out that there are 6 working geniuses and you only come with 2. The rest of it generally drains you. And so if you look at your team and the makeup of that team, generally you need some people who are kind of in that mode. You need some people who are in that mode of, well, I am a get or done kind of person. I'm not an idea person. I'm a get or done person, right? And so when you pair that idea person with the get or done person, crap happens. The other thing to note as a visionary myself, a visionary from a standpoint of ideas, and there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of ideas coming out of my head. What I've discovered is it's very important to recommend or say, hey, I'm brainstorming before you dive in, which I'm sure you've seen. There's nothing that will stress a get or done person out more than hear you start going off on something and being like, how am I going to get any of this done? And you're literally just brainstorming. Like none of what we're talking about, we're actually going to do right now. Yeah. We're just ideating. So I think your self-awareness there is key. The second thing that I found is if I will create a Loom video and force myself to do a Loom video, when I'm trying to communicate something that's more complex, there's something about the visual side of it. So there's another book I'd recommend called Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Dare to Lead, one of the statements she makes in it is paint done for me. So if you paint done for them, you're the visionary, right? You're the person who can see what done looks like down the road. How to get there between here and there? I got about 40 ideas about how we could get there. We'll hand those 40 ideas off to somebody who actually enjoys sifting through them and being like, let's do that one, and that one. And you're like, cool. I didn't care which idea you picked necessarily, just as long as you got something moving. So 6 Working Geniuses would be the first place that I would go, and then use that phrase often in the business when you're trying to delegate something. And if you say, paint done for me, I'm not actually sure what done looks like. It's not time to delegate. You've got to have a picture of what you want the outcome to look like in order to connect those different dots.
I like it. It's very helpful.
In terms of, let's talk about this idea generation or this content flow that you're talking about. It sounds like you've used ChatGPT Advanced Voice Mode.
Yes.
And your biggest concern with that is some of the accuracy. So there's been some issues with like...
So I'll let you know my process with that I found to be quite useful. But yet the end product is, to be honest with you, crap. I found very similar with the ChatGPT. Like there's the ideation phase and it wants to constantly go into do mode. And I'm like, no, we're not in do mode. We're in content. We're in idea phase. We're contenting. But then when I want to take the same chat and do contenting to do, it's like terrible. And again, I'm an Audible processor, so I can, my speech and words, good things will come out. It'll be full of mess, but it will come out if I talk long enough. And ChatGPT will listen to me all day, so that's fine. So
Yeah.
I'll have a voice chat, and I'll say, okay, here's the information I want to build. Here's the thing. I need you to act like an interviewer, just from this perspective. Talk to me. Okay, great. And it asks fantastic questions, and I get fantastic content. And then I will take and I'll copy that chat and then download it as a PDF and then throw it into a new chat and say, okay, I want you to take this because there's bits and bobs and things that are fantastic, and I need you to turn this into a piece of content. The thing that I find infuriating about any AI system, like I've tried Claude, I've tried ChatGPT, I've tried Grok, I've tried all of the above. They all do it. Is they all want to summarize to the point of losing and maybe it's just that I don't know how to use it correctly, but they all try to summarize to the point of completely losing all of that nuanced insight.
All the juice.
All the juice. It's like gone. And so I'll put in this thing and I'm like, you're adding stuff? You're destroying things? Like, and so then I have to sit down there and do the thing. So I said, if I could find a workflow where it's like idea spark conversations that I love, and then you take it, you use the juice, it's fantastic. But I find that I've done that workflow so many times, but the difficulty, because I'm like, I don't want to sift through my own ideas. I want to throw them at you, and I want you to sift through them. But because it does a poor job at sifting without summarizing and just making it bland, I end up having to do the sifting for it. And that effort is like, why didn't I just sit down and write the dang thing in the first place? And that's where I get stuck.
Are you using the $200 a month plan?
No, I do have the premium.
Like the $20 a month plan?
I think that's what it is. I have no idea.
Yeah. The premium ChatGPT. So I discovered I was just screwing around with the $200 a month plan because they were like unlimited advanced voice mode was one of the things that they would give me. Because like, have you ever been talking to it and you're like, and I hit my hour and 20 minutes, and now it's like, it comes out, it sounds stupid because it goes back to its old version. So that never happens on the advanced voice mode with the $200 a month plan. That's unlimited. The second thing that it has is Pro 01 mode, which basically you can feed it. I would be really curious to take that PDF that you talked about of the first conversation and feed it into 01 Pro, because 01 Pro, it takes 5 minutes to respond because it's actually thinking through, like, what do they actually want? How should I give it to you? So it's like giving it more thought. I've been pretty shocked at how good the stuff is that's coming out of 01 Pro. So that may be something to consider. The second thought that I had was this, Elizabeth. What if what you did was you got on a Zoom call like this one, you fire up the ChatGPT version of on your computer. Are you on a PC or a Mac?
PC. Okay.
So do you have the desktop app installed?
I do. I have to get it to work.
Yeah.
Oh, here's one. This is a sidebar. Do you ever have the problem, and I don't know if it's my freaking computer, where you can't freaking log into ChatGPT because the thing just goes blank white screen? And you
probably a Chrome extension. It's probably a Chrome extension conflict. So my recommendation would be to open up an incognito window on your Chrome browser and try to log in there and see if it makes it through. If it makes it through, it's a Chrome extension conflict. So you have to go one by one to your Chrome extensions, and it could even be the custom one that you made. Like I find that every once in a while, like I was having that problem with Fathom where I would log in and the whole, all of Fathom was blank. I couldn't, like the page wouldn't load. And I went and tried it on my incognito window and it did it again. I was like, wait a second, there's one Chrome extension on there that's still in the incognito mode. I turned it off and it loaded right up. So
okay, I'm gonna have to test that because that's been driving me crazy. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. That's a perfect example of something we should be considering in terms of what's possible and what's out there. So I'm going to share my screen really quick and I'm going to show you how I would do exactly what you just described. So once you've got it in this mode, so you're seeing right now my ChatGPT, right? I can now start having a conversation with it and even invite it into this discussion, right? So, and if I go into my Zoom settings and I do the option here that says share computer sound, now ChatGPT is part of our conversation here, right? So if you were doing this on your own and you just spun up a Zoom room and you had your Fireflies join the Zoom room to start recording it, You could even sign up for a second note taker. They often don't recognize each other, and so they'll record, because Fathom doesn't like to record things on its own. But we're actually having this conversation, and it's listening, right? Like it knows it doesn't know we're on live on a podcast. Guess what, ChatGPT, you're live on a podcast.
Oh, wow. I'm on a podcast. That's pretty exciting. Thanks for having me.
So we really appreciate you joining us on this podcast, ChatGPT. What I was actually going to say, Elizabeth, is you could have this conversation, pretend you're an interviewer, interview me about this, that whole bit. Make sure that you've hit the record button, right? So that your video stream is being recorded. And you might even want to like mess around with a little bit. You might even get out your, like, if you're wanting, it's not important to have ChatGPT's voice coming through. What's important is that it's prompting you and asking those questions. So the way we've got it right now, this recording is going to have a ginormous blue bubble that's going like this, and then our heads, but you want the opposite. You want like your head to be the thing that it's recording. So maybe you do it on your phone and you just set your phone down in front of you and let it be that interviewer, and then just go at it. Have the conversation, because then when the nuanced stuff comes out of your mouth and you're like, oh, that was good. You can literally then take that and feed that over to a teammate who just chops off the answer, and boom, you have a piece of content, right? Like you wouldn't have to go through there. And if you used O1 Pro, so why is O1 Pro mode ChatGPT? Why is O1 Pro better than just normal GPT?
O1 Pro Mode is designed to provide more accurate, nuanced, and contextually relevant responses. It processes information more effectively and adapts better to complex queries, making it easier to extract valuable insights and generate higher quality content efficiently.
How does it do that?
O1 Pro Mode leverages advanced algorithms and enhanced machine learning models to understand context, interpret nuances, and provide more precise answers. It can also dynamically adapt its responses based on the evolving conversation, ensuring a more relevant and tailored interaction.
So if I wanted to make it so that, like, if I had a conversation with you on ChatGPT, like advanced voice mode like this, and I turned it into a PDF, and then I fed that into O1 Pro mode, but I told it, look, I want you to repeat back in my voice, like quote me, and let's look through this content and decide which piece of content to publish on my LinkedIn. How do you think it would do with something like that?
It would likely do quite well. O1 Pro Mode excels at understanding and reproducing context. By analyzing your conversation and highlighting key points, it can identify the most impactful content for your LinkedIn. It would focus on your voice and preferences to ensure the final content feels authentic and engaging.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for being on the on the podcast today.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
So, I mean, it's amazing. Like it was even like, oh wow, I'm on a podcast. That's exciting. Like this is amazing. So cool that we had that today. So Elizabeth, if I were you, I would use the format you've already created, but I would make it so that it was actually recording you, like whether that's a Loom video or whatever else it was, because I have a feeling that when those words leave your mouth, that's good content, right? Because it has all the nuance in it. It has all the other pieces. So the next part of it is just scoring it. And if you have a transcript of that entire conversation with timestamps, you could then feed that into O1 Pro and start to have it score. And I've found one of the ways that I get that to do a good job is by giving it criteria. So what are the top 3 reasons content you think goes viral for you?
It tends to go well when I get snarky.
Okay. So snarkiness. What's the second thing?
Snarkiness, and then just like more nuanced tips. So a good marriage of that is like when I throw rocks at someone else's
Strategy.
Yes, and it's best done so it's like throw rocks at a strategy and then back it up with here are some specifics of XYZ
ways that we've done this and it's
right
worked.
Or here's what I found, here's why it doesn't work, here's what you should do with that.
So that context, you came up with like 4 criteria there. 1, nuanced, relevant information. 2, snarky. 3, relevant in terms of like most sellers are going to have this problem, right? 4, and you can go down and create a list of the relevancy things that are there. I love telling ChatGPT, go through my conversation, find timestamps around subjects, give those subjects a category, a categorical name for the subject, and then score that line in the row, scale of 1 to 10 based off of snarkiness, how relevant it is to other people, and whatever else it is, and then make me a table. So I tell it to do the analysis where I'm sifting through the ideas first, and then I'll go back and say, okay, cool. Now what timestamps were at this specific one because you've scored it the best?
Yeah,
and that's how I've been able to get it past that.
That works really well. I'm wondering, have you had any like success in getting something that's less formatted and structured in ideas and then getting that turned into, I'm thinking more also of not just say video content, but like a presentation or something that's more like it needs that structure to it? Because I guess the other thing that I'm looking for is with structures like, and I'm not looking at it to be 100% done, but I find somewhere between bullet points and with a little bit of filled out is helpful. And again, I find it like whitewashes it. So I could put in something and I'd say, okay, I need you to take all this content, and maybe we have a couple steps. All right, outline it. Then let's fill out the outline. And obviously I need to go test the pro version of it.
When I've run into that, what I've generally done, like when I find that it's whitewashing, I ask it why. So I'm like, hold on. So like I've done a presentation. I spoke at AMZ United last year. I'm speaking at Prosper this year. I basically took the transcript of my call with my co-host because I'm speaking with Tim Jordan, and I took the transcript of that call, fed it into O1 Pro Mode, and said, make us an outline of what our presentation is going to look like, and then we're going to fill it out more and feed it back into ChatGPT to create the actual presentation. When I'm in that voice mode, like you're talking about, I'll say, okay, start with slide 1. Tell me what's on that slide. And then it will go through and tell me what's on that slide. And I'm like, no. I didn't say that. I said this. Can you help me understand more about why you whitewashed that? And I'll find that it's got some perspective that I wasn't anticipating. And I have to tell it to look through a new perspective, just like a human being. It's looking at the data.
So you're using voice chat to QA it. I guess I was using text chat, and again, because I audibly process, I find that tedious. So you're saying you use voice chat, and then
so after I've had the tons of conversation, I'm like, cool, now let's turn this into a presentation. And it's like, okay, if you were to do a presentation, here's the high level bullets, and you're like, no, those aren't the high level bullets. Remember what I said here? Oh yeah, and it'll give you the high level bullets. And I'm like, cool, now let's fill in each slide. And then if it fills in each slide, because I'm a verbal processor just like you, right? Like, oh, okay. And so, all right, no, don't give me slide 2. I just need slide 1. I can't hold more than one slide in my head at the same time. I'm driving at the moment, so I'm not looking at what you're doing. Walk me through slide 1, knowing that I'm driving, and it'll walk me through slide 1. I'm like, okay, I like slide 1. Let's make slide 2 in the same format. And so then at the end, I'm like, fantastic. Now output all of those slides so that I can give them to my assistant and they can actually create the presentation.
I got it. And then whenever it does anything wrong, I would say you're almost treating it like a team member call or like a sales call when you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So you're almost digging into its internal reasoning. Its
thought process. Yeah. Because if I can figure out like, and then I'll say things like, who's the most amazing presenter in the world? Like most renowned for like fantastic presentations. And they'll name off like 6 people and be like, which one of those would do best with this audience, whatever audience my thing, and why? Okay, now pretend you're that person and write the presentation. If I hone its context window down to like give me more understanding, I found that its results get a lot better.
And is this conversation happening within the same conversation thread, or you?
Usually the same conversation thread. So like 30, 40 minutes down the road, writing my presentation for what's coming out. And then I go through that presentation, and I've already been through it slide by slide. So I'm not worried about what it's spitting out. And I have found it's 90% good. Like there's still some things where I've been in the middle of a presentation before and I've like seen the third bullet point and been like, I'm going to go fast over that one because it got it totally wrong. But 90% is way better than 50 or 60. So
right. Well, that's a good tip. I like it.
Cool. Well, we went a little bit over on this episode, so this episode's a little longer.
Sorry.
Hey, no, you were asking good questions, and you've got some challenges that I think others who are in our state of like ideation and digging into that, we're going to have some of those similar challenges. So I'm happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks so much for being on the show.